guys, it's Sunshine and welcome once more to my studio. I am very excited for this episode because it is episode 6 of our 6 authors 6 questions series, which means it's the final episode. And this episode is all about probably one of the most important subjects that we're going to be covering, how to get published. Ooh. So without any further ado, let's jump straight in and chat to our authors because they've got some really great stuff to say. All right. Authors. Our authors are Michelle Worthington, Dannika Patterson, Marianne Pierres, Meredith Costain, and Wallace and Adrian Beck. So please take it away, Adrian.
I first got published in an unusual way. Like a lot of people toil away and come up with a brilliant idea and then send it off and they go to flash piles and they hope and hope and hope and hope that someone will read it. I got published in an unusual way. I sort of tried to work the angles a little bit. And because I had a friend who was a famous footballer, I thought, right, this is a good way to get into the industry. I wasn't just thinking about the one series. I was thinking about, the hopefully hundreds of series after that. So I teamed up with my friend Shane Crawford, who used to play for Hawthorn, is a bit of a media superstar. And we collaborated on an idea together. And then because obviously Shane was involved, that carried a little bit more weight, I thought. And so that got us in the door. And once we're in the door, they could tell that we weren't mucking around. We really believed in it. We really knew what we were doing. And I think it's all about getting your foot in the door. That's how I did it, but not everyone does it the same way. And these days you can join a whole bunch of different organizations and community groups and even book clubs and writers groups and all that sort of stuff. And everyone has connections. Everyone sort of knows someone. And so even some of these wonderful conferences now offer pitching sessions or assessments and things like that. And that's a great way to meet publishers, because sometimes you think of publishers and they're like these spooky sort of people that live in this other world and you don't really know how to approach them and you're really scared of them and they're really sort of intimidating, but they're not. They're just normal people. They are just normal everyday people like us. I can absolutely vouch for them. They're not that scary. But when you meet them, you realize that. So you've just got to sort of manufacture ways to meet them. So if I was starting off again from scratch and I didn't have the contacts that I fortunately do have now, I would absolutely go to assessments and conferences and things like that and manufacture ways to meet these people so that they know you're real. You're not just another name on an email in a slush pile somewhere. And you know that they're real too. And then if you forge some sort of connection, it'll come down totally to how good your concept is, whether there's other things in the market that could be competing with it or whether it's filling a gap. So once you make that connection, it comes back to how good your writing is. So find ways to make that connection and work on that brilliant concept.
Well, I self-published first because everybody said no. And in terms of getting published, look, to me, it's been really interesting. I've never had a book accepted from a cold submission, from the slush pile, as they say. All my books that have been published have been through connections, either me meeting someone or my first one, their partnership publishing. My dad's best friend's daughter was a freelance editor, and she said to my dad, the company I'm working for is just starting up a kids book line, tell them to send them in. And she didn't mention anything to them, so I sent it in. And because they were just at that point, then they took it on and she ended up being my editor, which was really bizarre because they didn't know that we knew each other. So that's cool. But then even the first traditionally published one, it was going to a book launch and meeting Paul Collins there, because publishers often go to book launches of their book. And so meeting him there, we had a drink afterwards and then a year later we ended up working on a book together. So every book I've done has been to actually meeting the person face to face. So I think the best advice I would give in terms of sort of speeding up the process and making yourself stand out a bit is just meeting the publishers. It's going to book launches and seminars and doing a thing where you can pitch to them and meet them face to face. Then you're a person as well as a story, and they're just getting your story in there and it's amongst 1,000 other stories. It's really hard to stand out. It has to be really, really outstanding to stand out. And so actually meeting them, it just puts that little bit above, I think. And often you will end up, if you get to know someone and you're not shoving your work at them when you meet them, you're just meeting them, chatting to them as a person, not even as a writer publisher. There's a chance they might, after the third or fourth time, they may possibly give you a card and say, well, send me some stuff. And straight away, you're out of the slush pile. So yeah, to me, just that face-to-face meeting people has been so important, not just for getting published, but for being part of this community, which is most amazing community and improving my writing, because everyone's so giving with sort of, if you ask for advice on writing, people are so giving with advice from the very top down. So it improves your writing, it improves your chances of getting published. It's just the best thing ever.
It is. I agree
I
with you.
spat on my computer when
This
I
is the
said
best industry ever.
yes. But seriously, it really is. I know we sound like we're kind of joking,
I know.
but we're serious.
But we're not.
So serious.
Thanks,
We're
Zach.
serious black.
Okay, how did I first get published? Well, I guess I was very keen to get published, so I set out to do everything that I could to try and make it happen. I was already writing stories and articles for kids magazines, so I had that background, but I found out the importance of contacts, and there were illustrators that I was working with on the magazines. I was also freelance editing them by this stage, who gave me the names of educational publishers. I met people at, say, maybe a jazz conference who was writing a dolly fiction book and gave me the name. It was great to be able to get contacts, but you have to be able to back it up. It's one thing to say, oh, it's not what you know, it's who you know, but it is what you know. So be aware that meeting someone and talking yourself up, and it's really what's on the page that comes in. That's important. So you can talk yourself up and everything's great, but unless you can deliver, and not just the text, but be able to work with, meet deadlines and be open to editorial criticism and things like that. That's how you get published, I think, at the end of the day. So I did build on contacts, and I did find that the more I had published, and in different ways, different publishers, that certainly helped. I've never had an agent. I've always just submitted things. Having said all that, the publishing world has changed a lot since I first started getting published, which was in the 90s. So publishers, the world of publishers has shrunk. There are fewer of them. I think there are a lot more people writing now. There are certainly lots of people really wanting to get published, which is great, but it means there's a bigger pool. And having said all that, there's a lot more information now that's helpful. When I first started writing, there was nothing. There were lots of courses on all the time and lots of bulletins to read and things like that. It was a matter of just working it out. But there is so much information out there now, and people are so happy to share things that it is actually a really good time. So it's half and half. Now, agents. There are some people, some publishers who don't have a slush pile. They will just say, we're only interested in publishing people who we already publish or who are already published, or it's come in from an agent. And it's actually harder, in Australia anyway, to get an agent than it is to find a publisher, because there are lots of other ways to find a publisher. So I'm going to give you some tips now on how to go about that. The first one is, everybody has a website now. Nobody had a website in 1991. They didn't exist. So you can go to the website and find out lots of information. I mean, I found out about what publishers wanted by, visiting bookshops or educational booksellers and lying on the floor and reading them all and thinking, this is what they're looking for. Now you can just go to their website and see what they want. But the other thing is, there's lots of information about when they might be open. So they might say, no, we don't take submissions. However, for the month of February, you can send your stuff in. Or we have 1 day a week for the next 6 months, Freaky Friday or whatever they want to call it, where you can submit things. So this is a great way to get in. But even not everybody can get to these things depending where you live. Go to the Kidlit conferences. There are so many and held in different states. Kidlit Vic in Victoria, Squibby have them all around. SEA up in Queensland, Writers Unleashed in Sydney. There's lots of different conferences, and you can pay for the time to sit in front of a publisher and woo them. Woo them with your fabulous manuscript. So, and you actually get to sit in front of them and get feedback from them. And, you know, they're seeing the person. They're seeing the personality behind the person, not just the 1,000th thing that's coming to the slush pile. So that's a good way to do it. Also, just those conferences are great for two reasons. One is that you meet your tribe. I know people say this. You know, I first started going to the what was called the International Squibby Conferences in Sydney, and I've made lifelong friends because I met all these other people that are like me. You know, they've been wanting to be writers since they were 6, and I stay in contact with all of those people. So you'll meet great people that you like, but you'll also get to see publishers are just real people. You know, you meet them, run into them at the cocktail party when you're, oh, sorry, I dropped my white wine all over your... I didn't mean to do that. But, you know, you'll get to meet people. But the one tip about that, though, is don't see that as an opportunity to do something really silly. I'm not sure if this is a myth, an urban myth, but there is a big story going around about someone at one of these conferences who got their manuscript and waited for the publisher to go to the toilet and then pushed it under the door. I can see it happening, to be honest. So, you know, whether that is actually true or not, I don't know, but whatever. Just don't do that. No, never do that. It's fine to spill your drink. No, don't spill your drink either. But it is a great way to meet people. So I would highly recommend getting out to those things, because that's a chance for you to really, you know, get your work noticed rather than just sending it into a slush pile. And as I said, not everybody has a slush pile.
Okay, so this is going to like totally blow my credibility, but it actually took me 10 years to get my first book published because I really had no idea what I was doing. So this was back in the day where you used to write out your cover letter or type it up and put your reply paid envelope in with your submission, post it away, and then wait 12 months to get the reply paid envelope back, rejecting yourself. So it was pretty demoralizing. But I didn't know that there were places that I could go for help. I didn't know that I needed somebody to edit my work. There were so many things that I learnt as I got no's. So every no I got, I would then say, why was that a no? How can I make it better? So eventually I found a publisher who I thought fitted with my manuscript. Originally, I just sent it to anyone who was open for submission. Didn't matter where they were. Like, they could have been in China or the US or the UK. Like, you're open for submissions, you're getting my book. But then I really started thinking about, no, hang on a second, who's going to suit my book? Who's looking for the type of book that I'm writing? And when I did that, I was able to find a publisher who was publishing the type of books that I was writing. And it just so happened that when they received my manuscript, the illustrator had just finished a very similar book and was looking to do another book. So there was a little bit element of timing and luck, which I still think happens today. It's not all talent. You know, there is a little bit that, you know, that there has to be that timing and luck element, but you need to give yourself the absolute best chance of getting a yes. And to do that, you really need to research the publishers and think about, is this publisher the right person for my book? Both ways. So are they going to want to publish a book like mine? And also, am I comfortable dealing with this publisher? And I think if you do that little bit of research, it's going to limit the amount of no's that you get.
How did I first get published? Well, before I answer this, I am going to say that the publishing industry has changed so much in the last 5 to 10 years that my experience is probably not necessarily the kind of experience you would have today, because I feel like there's so many more options and ways into publishing. For me, it was a very ordinary kind of story. I didn't get picked out of anything. Nobody said this person's amazing. I just kept on writing and sending things out. But eventually I did send them to an agent who read my first big long novel and said, look, there's a good story here, but it needs another layer. Go away and write that other layer. So that was the closest I'd gotten. And so I went away and I took a year to write another layer. And when I went back, he'd left, sadly. And he was making a lot of money writing himself. So, but he had been replaced by a lady who had just moved over to Australia from the UK, and I gave her the rewrite. And she was prepared to, it was science fiction, so not a lot of people bought science fiction in Australia, so she was prepared to put it out there without any great commitment. She said, we'll just see. So, so that's how it happened. Basically, she took it out, she had some contacts, and eventually it went across the desk of a publisher who really liked it. And I got that phone call that I talked about earlier. So I think now I feel like there's so many, even though there's so many people out there self-publishing, and ebooks have made it a lot easier for publishers to put out stories quickly, which may feel like there's just so many people out there writing. I mean, that's true, there are. But I feel like there's many more ways you can tackle it. So you can be writing a great blog. You know, there's so many stories out there of people that are writing a great blog that attracts a publisher to them. You know, you can collaborate with other artists and get your work seen by connecting, and they don't even have to be other writers. You know, one of my great best experiences was when I wrote the Night Creatures series, was collaborating with a songwriter in Sydney, Yu, and she wrote a song for the book, and so that got its own attention. So it was her audience and then my audience, and that created a bigger audience. I think the main thing is to be writing. I think you can get really caught up in the idea of publishing without actually having written enough material to publish. Mm-hmm. So once the material's there, then it's a matter of going and meeting people at writing conventions. That's still an option. Publishers have pitching sessions. Lots of publishers have, you know, send me a Friday pitch or send me a Monday pitch. Meeting people that are at the same stage as you, who know people. And there's so many opportunities online to submit stories, to anthologies, or just to get on fan fiction. Fan fiction's a great way to get started in writing. Yeah. So if I was starting again today, I would be excited about how many opportunities there are out there to get my work read, like Wattpad. You know, Wattpad, you know, and people, and in fact, just recently I did some work as a ghostwriter for a romance app. So it's an app that publishes romance fiction, and they're now selling their stories to all the big movie houses in America. So many opportunities, I would say, Sunshine. They abound. All you have to do is use that great imagination that you're using in your stories, use that for publishing, but always be polite. Whoever you deal with, be polite.
Well, Sunshine, I first got published by a wonderful Australian independent publisher, Ford Street Publishing in Melbourne, who and that Ford Street Publishing is run by Paul Collins, who is a lovely individual and quite generous with his time, especially for aspiring and emerging authors. So I first sent a manuscript to Ford Street Publishing in 2017, right at the beginning of the year. So I had spent the previous year getting my brave on, dedicating time to writing, polishing my manuscript, and I thought, yes, this is a sure thing. Paul Collins, on the other hand, told me, no, this is not for Ford Street Publishing. Actually, he did not say no, which was his mistake, because he said, I don't think this is for Ford Street Publishing. To which I replied in various ways over an exchange of series of emails, are you sure? Until eventually he said, oh, all right then. In between that was I talk lightly about it, but it was a very professional exchange over 9 months of rewrites and edits and suggestions I took on board and sat with and really tried my hardest, because I could see, I believed that it would be a really good fit, and it turns out it was. It's been wonderful. So wonderful we've done a second book together, which has been great as well. But it was hard to send out the manuscript the first time. It was in the days where I literally put it in an envelope and kissed it and put it in the post box and waited and waited. And it was really interesting to just sit in that space of not knowing for quite some time. And I was spoilt with my first experience, because Ford Street is one of the publishers who will offer you some feedback if they're in a position to do so. Sometimes you just wait 6 months, and if you don't hear it, it's a no thank you. So I don't think I realised how lucky I was to get that bite on really the first thing I'd ever sent out, since I'd really decided to go after a contract and a book in the picture book, in the wonderful world of picture books.
What and how do you recommend for first-time authors approaching publishers? So have you got any best practices? Have you got any best practices that you could recommend?
Absolutely. So for first-time authors approaching publishers, read, and reread their submissions guidelines. Do not send submissions if their submission window is not open. They generally really do not like that. It is a waste of your time and of theirs if they bother to check their emails or post boxes. Format correctly, because everybody likes their formatting a little bit different. So spend time going over the nitty-gritty. It is better to miss an opportunity than it is to not put your best foot forward, because so much of your heart and time and energy goes into your manuscript, and in making your words the best they can be, you want to give those words their best chance when you're sending them into the world. And really, acceptance is probably the other thing, accepting that really all you can control are the words on the page. What someone else feels about them, or the potential someone else thinks they hold, is really none of your business and not in your control. So you just make those words shine. That's all you can do, other than sit and cross your fingers and accept that you need someone to love your work to bring it forward. You can't talk them into it most of the time.
Thank you for the last time to our wonderful authors. I don't know about you guys, but I was super pumped for this episode, and they did not disappoint. Now, today's episode, one of the things I loved about this is they really encouraged you guys to do some networking. So going out, meeting publishers, meeting other writers, it's all part of it. It's exactly the same for illustration. If you're a kids book illustrator, you need to get out there, you need to talk to people and make some friends. It's all about making connections, and it's really fun. Like, it might seem scary and daunting going to these events with all these huge publishers and all these writers and blah, 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 but it's actually amazing. People in the publishing industry are just lovely humans. So go do that. You won't regret it. Half of this industry, I swear, is about making contacts. Just do it. I also love that our authors are kind of giving this advice. It's like standing on not a knife blade, I guess, but you can't be too pushy to the publishers, but at the same time, you can't stand back too much. So it's like this, it feels like it's this crazy balance that these lovely authors are walking to get noticed, but also not to be too pushy about it. It must be so hard. I know it's hard for an author, It's hard for an illustrator to do that, not to be annoying, but still be out there. It's hard, but I'm sure we can all get there with practice. It's a practice thing, I'm sure. Now, lastly, and probably my favorite and most important thing that our authors said today is, yes, you're going to have this opportunity has arrived, this beautiful golden opportunity that you've done all the work for, you've done all the networking, you've sent in your things, and it's here in front of you. It's beautiful, but you have to be able to back it up. So you need the skills to be able to pull off that book or whatever the publisher wants. Otherwise, that publisher isn't going to hire you again if you're not any good. You're not going to get that opportunity again. So all of this work, this pre-work, the pre-prep that you're doing right now is getting you to a point so when that opportunity comes a knocking, you'll be like, hells yeah, I can do that. And you will go gangbusters. I love that they were encouraging us to do that. As always, if you are an aspiring writer or author, please, please, please go and check out our lovely authors from today. They have so much knowledge and they have all the things that you could possibly ever want to know about writing and being an author in general. So go check them out. But of course, we have got these other 5 episodes for you to go and have a look at as well, just in case you missed them. Anyway guys, that is it. Make sure you check out my other work on Instagram and Facebook. And as always, I am still twitching at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time on a Friday night, but also kind of on a Wednesday. I've also started a Discord server, so come and chat to us. It's a good time. So that's it guys, for the last and final time. Thank you so much, and goodbye from me and all my lovely, lovely authors. I can't believe that's the last time I'm going to do that. Thank you so much for being here. We will talk to you all very soon. Bye!